First of all, welcome everybody for being here, and I think for us on our end, it's an honor to represent the University of Texas in the SEC championship game in Atlanta this weekend against the University of Georgia. First year in the conference was definitely a goal of ours to be in Atlanta for this game, and it's been a challenging regular season schedule to get to this point, and know it's going to be a heck of a challenge as well on Saturday. Georgia's a great football team. I think Kirby and the University of Georgia have been the standard of college football for about the last 7 years or so. National championships and conference championships have recruited at a really high level. It's got a great coaching staff. So it's a great challenge for us, but one that I know we're looking forward to, and an opportunity that we want to make sure we make the most of.
Thank you, Coach. Again, if you have a question, use the raise hand function. We'll call on you and unmute your line. We'll begin with Thomas Jones of the Austin American-Statesman. Thomas?
Sark, good afternoon. Well, real quick, I was going to ask you about Kelvin Banks. Has he practiced this week? And number two, we asked Kirby this. How has the meaning of this game changed for both of your programs since you both look like CFP locks?
Yes, he's practiced. The meaning for this game is, this is an SEC championship, and this is really hard to win. I was talking to Coach Saban a few weeks ago, and there's two national championship teams that he had that he didn't even win his own division in the Southeastern Conference. Not to mention didn't make it to the game and win a conference championship. So winning an SEC championship is one that we hold in very high regard. Being part of this game is something that we hold in very high regard. Our guys have worked extremely hard to get to this point. And so we take this, we take this very seriously. This is a big deal to us. I think so many times in the world that we live in is focusing on what's next. The CFP, the national championship. Hey, we've got a great goal in front of us that we have an opportunity to achieve. That I'm sure Kirby and his team feel the same way. Like, we know how hard the Southeastern Conference is, and so to earn the opportunity to play in this game with an opportunity to be conference champions is something that we hold in very high regard.
Next question will come from Kirk Bowles of the Houston Chronicle. Kirk?
Steve, we know you've always wanted a strong running game, wherever you've been. And anything special that has clicked, these last two games when you guys have had so much success? And why do you think Trey Weiser wasn't a 4- or 5-star recruit as well as he's played now?
Well, I think the one thing for the run game, so much of what we do comes off of the outside zone scheme. And, as I touched on about a month ago, we were just off. Our landmarks weren't great, but the O-line and the running back, our timing was off. Our run timing was off of when blocks were being made and where the runner was making his cut. We were getting some holding penalties. We just had things going on there that if we could get that kind of rectified, the other runs that come off of that, I think would benefit from that. And I think that's been the case. And I think that, then with that, you start gaining confidence, and there's nothing like confidence in anything that you're doing. And I think our guys have a lot of confidence in their ability to run the ball and block the run, and what that does for us as an offensive football team. I don't ever get too caught up in why certain guys are ranked where and not. And, we try to make our own evaluations of every player, and we try to rank every player as it predicates to how we think they could fit with us in our culture, in our systems, offense, defense, special teams. So, why somebody didn't give them more stars, I don't know. That's you'd probably have to ask them. That's a better question.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Chip Towers of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Yes, sir. Good to see you. You've been around Texas long enough to have a really good feel about that place and that fan base. And first year SEC, you're here. So I just wonder what kind of I know you've been you buried getting ready for this game, obviously, but Can you talk about the feedback you've gotten, what you expect Saturday? Those of us here in Atlanta expect to see a lot of burnt orange show up on Saturday. Can you just talk about that side of it? And then maybe to a lesser extent, like, you knew this was coming, so you had to get ready for it. And obviously you did what you did to get where you're going to be Saturday.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be part of two SEC championship games. 2016 with Alabama, and then 2020. 2016 was an amazing environment. That was Alabama versus Florida. 2020 was the COVID season, so that was obviously a little bit different. You know, this game is a fantastic game to be part of. What the SEC does and what they put into this game. The arena, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, is a tremendous stadium. Had the opportunity to coach there for 2 years with the Falcons. It's a great venue. It's great for the fans. Clearly, we know we're essentially going on the road for a road game. You play in Georgia and Atlanta, but I also know there's a ton of pride from Longhorn Nation in support of our team. So I do anticipate a good amount of burnt orange there. How much, I don't know. Tell me how much the ticket prices are, and I could probably tell you how many Longhorns are going to be there. So if the prices keep going up, that means we're buying the tickets. So looking forward to seeing Longhorn Nation there and supporting us.
Next question comes from Cedric Golden of the Austin American-Statesman. Cedric.
Hey, Steve. You didn't hesitate to go to Arch Manning with 3 minutes to go in the first quarter of a scoreless game in a hostile environment, which speaks to your confidence in him. How did he handle that moment? And why didn't we see more of Arch running during the regular season?
Well, I think part of it is I was really fortunate, and I think Arch was fortunate to get so much experience early in the season. When Quinn got hurt, really got 2.5 games under his belt, 2 starts. Started the first game we had in the SEC against Mississippi State. So all those things I think gave him confidence, but also gave us confidence in him. He continues to prepare at a really high level, and so inevitably as you work your way through a season. Sometimes you got to keep a few things up your sleeve, that's the way it goes.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll next go to Scott Rabelais of The Advocate. Scott.
Unmute. There we go. Hi, Steve. Congratulations on your season to this point. You talked about being involved in this game before, and now you're in it as a head coach for the first time. With the expanded college football playoff and the prospect of it expanding even more in the next few years, what do you think is the place of these conference championship games? Do you think they'll continue to have a place, or can it be a little bit of a burden to have to play in them when your playoff hopes are on the line?
Well, I know I can't speak to every conference. Having been in the Big 12 and what that meant for us to win that last year, and what that environment was like, and then have the opportunity to compete in this game. Our players work really hard, and this is a year-round thing that being a Division I Power 4 football player, the demands of what's asked of them on the football field, in the classroom, in the communities, all that they do. What an awesome reward to be able to play in a game like this, on a stage like this, at the highest level. I don't think we could think of 2 better teams, from a talent standpoint. Georgia's an extremely talented football team. Got great coaches. We feel like we've got a pretty good football team. We feel like our coaches coach well. An opportunity for a rematch, if we want to call it like that, for the fans. But that's what competing is about. You want as many opportunities you can get to compete because of the hard work that you put in. And so, again, there's layers to the season of college football. I understand that, and whether this can contribute to some of the seeding, but I surely hope, especially in the Southeastern Conference's case, nobody ever gets punished for playing in this game, because it's a little bit of the war of attrition in our conference. And you've got a week in and week out. Like I always kind of chuckle at people. Oh yeah, well, we beat an SEC team this year, but you didn't play it 8 straight weeks, and you didn't have to go play in some of these environments that people have to play in and week out, and you have to deal with the injuries that we have to deal with in our conference. And so the reward to play in a championship game like this is one that we cherish. But on the same token, I surely hope this year and in the years to come that nobody ever gets punished because they don't come out on top in this game, because it is a real grind. And it's to earn the opportunity to hoist that trophy is a great one. And I hope that if anything, we get recognized for making it to this game, not getting punished if somebody, for the team that doesn't come out on top.
Okay, next we'll go to Anwar Richardson of orangebloods.com. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Coach. Coach, yesterday we didn't get a chance to talk to you about the signing day, but wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that, and in particularly Jonah Williams. Maybe a little bit about his recruitment and what's going to be the plan for him, Coach, when he gets here. Is he going to go straight into baseball, and then hit you guys maybe in the summer? I'm just kind of curious how you're going to balance, both of those. And the last part of the question is transfer portal. Unfortunately, in the sandwich that you have, it opens on Monday. So have you had to have conversations with guys this week, unfortunately? And do you know what areas you would like to address?
All right. Let me think about all that, Anwar.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Let's go back to the recruiting class. Okay, so we're super pumped about this recruiting class. This is a very talented group of players that I think not only fit the physical characteristics of what we're looking for by position in our program, but I think meet the character and are going to fit nicely into our culture. I think it's a really versatile class with variety of positions highlighted by high-level players. As always, we really pride ourselves on recruiting the high school ranks. We think when we can get players in here young and then immerse them into our culture and into our off-season conditioning program and develop them as we go throughout their career, that's when we really reap the benefits of having these guys in our program. And this class is no different. I think 20 of our 24 guys that signed will be mid-years, early enrollees, which is an all-time high for us, which is fantastic. We get them in winter conditioning, we get them in spring ball, which is huge for us. Jonah being one of those guys. And Coach Schlossberg and I have, I think, a good plan in place for him to, join the baseball team this spring, but obviously find our windows and find our time to start getting him immersed into the football side of things too. And that's always the challenge of being a dual sport athlete. Some of your free time isn't always all of your free time. When you make a commitment to playing both sports, some of that free time is now dedicated to the other sport that's not in season. And so his will kind of fall into those lines, but he's a really dedicated young man. He's got great work ethic. He's got a beautiful family, and they're all very successful people, and they know about discipline and hard work. And so I suspect that he's going to come in here ready to work in both sports. And hopefully he can have a lot of success in both sports. We'll see how that goes. As far as the portal goes, opening on Monday, we're holding off having any discussions with any players until after the game. Naturally, I'm sure like other schools, we're going to have some guys that are going to want to go into the portal. We're going to have some guys that are going to want to go in right away, and we're going to have some players that maybe want to wait until our season is done. And I support that. I understand that this is the day and age of college football that we're in. And at the same token, we may have a few needs to fill through the portal. We don't make a living in the transfer portal, but we do, when depth concerns come about at specific position groups because of attrition one way or the other, injuries, players leaving early for the NFL draft, players transferring out of our program, that sometimes you have some immediate needs at position groups that we'll have to address. But again, we've got a little bit of time for that. So we're trying to manage everything as it's coming at us here. With signing date being yesterday, SEC championship game on Saturday, transfer portal opening on Monday. There's definitely some moving parts, but I think our staff has done a really good job of compartmentalizing those things, and the people that are responsible for what they're responsible for handling their business.
Thank you.
Coach, next we'll go to Brian Davis of A to Z Sports. Brian.
Hey, Coach, appreciate you doing this. On Monday, a couple of the guys said your favorite phrases again. The standard is the standard. Be enamored with us. And I've been wanting to ask you for several weeks now, how much of this team's success has been they bought into the psychology of what you preach to them and the messaging that you are giving to them. And along with that, how much time do you spend thinking about the messaging that you're going to deliver to the players?
Yeah. Well, I think we're fortunate with this year's team. I try to remain really consistent with our messaging. And, from the day I arrived, I still use a lot of those same things that I think are important to the success of our team. And so for a lot of the leaders on this team, they're 3 and 4 years into hearing a very consistent message to where I think there's a belief in what I'm talking about. And then there's nothing more powerful than the players speaking the same language as the head coach and in that locker room. And so for a younger player, it's not just me, once every 3 months talking about something. It's a very consistent message that I think the players then can reciprocate to one another. And I think that in turn builds the belief in what we're trying to do. I do spend a fair amount of time on our messaging. I spend a lot of time in the summer because I think, everybody has that first meeting of the year that every head coach goes for an hour and a half talking about the goals and how we're going to get there and what we're going to do. I really try to make it a point to whatever I talk about that first meeting, that's not the only time I talk about it. I'm going to come back to those things periodically throughout the season. So again, I'm trying to stay consistent with the messaging, but every week I've always got a little something different. And part of our job as coaches, yes, my job is to get them prepared to play and perform and play to the standard of which we want to play. But also part of our job is to correlate football into life lessons and how they can take some of these learning experiences in college football into the real world, into their own lives moving forward. That hopefully we've laid a foundation for them to deal with some of the things that real life presents to them.
We have time for a couple more. We'll go next to Sam Kahn with The Athletic. Sam.
Hey, Steve. Wanted to ask you about your quarterbacks. I know you guys have done a really good job of managing them. I'm curious in this day and age, especially with the portal, how challenging is it to be able to develop guys and retain guys and get guys to their peak? Because I know it's not like it was 10, 15 years ago when you could get guys to stay for multiple years until they're ready to start. How have you managed that and how challenging is that?
We've we just start developing them. I don't get caught up and worry about, well, he might leave after a year, he might leave after 2, or he might leave after 3. It's like, hey, he's here today. Let's coach him to the best of our ability, whether it's in the classroom, on the grass, in the weight room, fundamentally, schematically, whatever that looks like. Like we just pour into him. And, for us, like I know as a coaching staff and even in the quarterback room and as far even from a team perspective, Malik Murphy was a guy that was in our program for a couple years and did a nice job. And he really developed and started for us last season and then decided to move on at this time a year ago, right after the conference championship game, decided to transfer. But we've all followed him and see the success that he's having at Duke. And the playmaking he's made and winning a game on the last play of the game a week ago. And I think they won 9 games or something in the regular season. And so, we like to think that, hey, man, we help put this guy in maybe a little bit better position to have some success in life, because that's the premise of our program. Is like, how can we serve others? How can we get them better? Ultimately, sure, I'd love for them to have that success here, but I also am a realist of the day and age and the state of college football right now where guys can move on. So I don't get caught up in, well, he's going to be leaving next year, so what's the point of developing him? Like, we just keep pouring into these guys, and I think that's a healthy way to go about it.
Our next question will come from Westcott Eberts. Westcott, go ahead.
Yeah, given the diversity that you'd like to have in the running game, it's interesting to hear you talk about outside zone being so important this year. Why do you think it is that that's become such a staple, and how does that help open up other parts of the offense?
It's a staple for us every year. That's the premise of where we begin our run game. And I think a lot of people outside zone is a little further down the list, but it's a very intricate run. It sounds easy. Everybody just run to the right or everybody run to the left, and the running back just go and kind of ride the wave. It's a little bit more intricate than that for us. There's a lot of communication that has to take place. There's a lot of fundamentals and techniques that are needed. There's a lot of timing that is needed on those runs. But the rest of our runs that we have kind of come off of that. The play action pass game starts to come off of that. And so we always start there. And then we build from there, and we go back to square one every year, and we start there, and then we build from there. And this year just happened to be one of those years where it took us a little longer to really get it right. But I feel like we're kind of hitting our stride at the right time with that run, and then in turn, that's helping the other runs start to come to life.
Okay, we have time for 2 more questions. We'll start with Danny Davis of the Austin American-Statesman. Danny.
Hey, Steve. Barring injury, Jake is going to, at least tie the all-time starts record at Texas in the playoffs. What's kind of made him a constant presence for you guys, both as a leader and as your center?
Right. No, I think it starts with one, his work ethic, his drive, his competitive nature. He's a guy who has worked extremely hard at his craft, not only physically but mentally. We rely on him a lot at the line of scrimmage in communicating and calls and the run game, the pass game. I think he's got really good rapport with Coach Flood. I think he's got really good rapport with both quarterbacks. I think he's earned a ton of trust from his fellow offensive linemen and them believing in what he's calling and why he's calling it. But yet at the same time, I think there's a great deal of respect for Jake in our locker room. For the toughness, the mental and physical toughness he possesses, to go along with just the uniqueness of the leadership that he has. Here's a guy who's a graduate, already here and decided to come back for a senior season, and I think he's reaping the benefits of it all, and enjoying the moment. But he's a fierce competitor, and I think that's where it all begins for him.
Coach, we'll take one final question from Bob Ballou of CBS Austin. Bob.
Hey, Steve. When you made the decision to pull Quinn in the second quarter of that Georgia game, why do you think, even that night, but long term, he was able to respond so well? And how much trust and confidence do you two have to have in each other in a decision like that and then moving forward?
Well, I mean, truth be told, probably wasn't very happy about it, but as the coach, I felt like it was the right thing to do in the moment, to give him an opportunity to kind of recenter, regroup, take a minute to watch a drive or two, get him into the locker room, and then have him come out and play a good second half, which I thought he did. I really thought he did a nice job in the second half. Like I've said before, I wish we would have played a little better around him. Wish we would have coached a little better around him. But I thought he competed at a high level in the second half of that game. And so sometimes, that's part of the job. That's why they call us coach. You got to make some of those tough calls sometimes. But in the end, I do believe, when Quinn, whether it was that night, the next week, tonight, 2 years from now, there'll be a moment that'll come to him that he's going to be, I'm glad coach did that. And it made me, get recentered. The ability to respond to that adversity is one that I think has always been a trademark of Quinn's. He's dealt with injury. He's dealt with some play that wasn't his best early in his career. He's dealt with people always wanting, expecting more of him. But every time he responds, I mean, the guy's a steady C. He just won't get rattled. And so in that moment, again, I didn't think that was going to rattle him anymore. My goal and my hope was that if anything, it would have sparked him, the competitor in him, to play even more charged than he had been, and I think it worked. And so you're just always trying to push the right buttons in players, and again, ton of respect for Quinn and the job that he's done for us, not only this season but for 3 years, and for him to back-to-back seasons get us back to a conference championship and more than likely an opportunity to play in the college football playoffs, I think is a tremendous honor, and he deserves that. He's been a great teammate and a great leader on this team.
Coach, thank you for your time this afternoon. Congratulations to you and your team. We'll see you here in Atlanta on Saturday.
All righty, y'all. Thank you.